Welcome to the game of birdwatching in coastal South Carolina. This video will show you a sampling of the great recreational birdwatching areas along the coast. Sit back and enjoy, then come out and visit us, have fun with the incredible bird scenes and other wildlife along the coast. Birdwatching in coastal South Carolina has never before been so popular. The diversity of habitats and the abundant amount of species make the low country a must-see for the novice to expert birder. Several state and public organizations complement each other and have made it so easy for everyone to have access to high-quality birdwatching locations. Your host, Miles Phillips of Sea Grant Extension Program, will introduce you to the wonderful locations and helpful professional naturalists who are your guides to experience the beauty of our South Carolina coast.
Hello, and welcome to the game of birdwatching. My name is Miles Phillips of the Sea Grant Extension Program, and over the next 30 minutes we'll be introducing you to some of the people and places that make the South Carolina coast so great for recreational birdwatching.
During the spring and fall migration, the forest becomes alive with the colors and songs of neotropical migrants. Warblers, vireos, tanagers, and buntings all find food, shelter, and protection in the maritime forest. Some of the highlights during migration include blue-winged warblers, ovenbirds, indigo buntings, rose-breasted grosbeaks, and summer and scarlet tanagers. The park has a small pond that has turned into a wildlife mecca for a variety of wildlife, especially birds. Nesting wood ducks, mallards, and common yellow-throat warblers are all common sightings, along with green herons, blue-winged teals, and even a yellow-billed cuckoo. Also during the spring and fall migration, this pond offers great opportunities to see those elusive warblers. Myrtle Beach State Park can be an exceptional place to bird at all times of the year. During the summer months, laughing gulls, ruddy turnstones, and sanderlings all make frequent use of the beach. Fish diving birds such as pelicans, least terns, and ospreys can all be seen plunging into the Atlantic for their meal. During the wintertime, the fishing pier is an exceptional place to bird. Birds that can be seen include gannets, rafts of scoters, common and red-throated loons, as well as various types of gulls. Other types of waterfowl that can be seen include buffleheads, red-breasted mergansers, lesser scaup, and even a common goldeneye.
As we move along the coast, we stopped here at Brook Green Gardens, a site with unique birdwatching habitats. We have a raptor aviary, a cypress aviary with wading birds, and the sculpture gardens, which allow you to see a variety of garden birds and butterflies. And we also have right here the rice field overlook, where we have Lucius Fishburne, the wildlife trail manager from Brook Green Gardens, to tell us a little bit about it. Hello, Lucius.
Hey, Miles.
Hi.
Good to be here. You said rice field overlook, and it's true. What we're looking at here is former rice fields. And there was a time that we could stand here on this deck, although at that time the deck wouldn't be here, and there would be not a tree to be seen for a distance of 5 miles. All rice fields. This particular rice field, and the trees that you see in the background are growing on the old rice field bank system that was built by slavery. This particular one we restored 2 years ago, that to the extent that we rebuilt the banks around it. It's about 40 acres. We installed 2 rice field trunks, so we have a natural inflow of tide when we want to flood the rice field. And our plan is not to plant rice, but what we will do is flood this rice field during the wintertime and provide habitat for migrating wildlife. And during the fall seasons, you may be able to come out here and see anything from mallard to gadwall to ringneck, and also rail, red-winged blackbirds, eagles. We have nesting eagles here on Brook Green, as well as osprey. And so it's just an excellent place to participate in the birding sport. During special events such as the Tidelands Birding Festival, what we'll do is open up areas of the gardens that aren't ordinarily open to the public. For instance, what we call the observation deck, which is an old boat dock on Brook Green Creek. And from that vantage point, people will be able to see hopefully some of the marsh birds, especially on a low tide, some of the marsh birds that interact in that area. Also, not visible from where we are here, but there's a very clean bank here that we restored, I mentioned earlier, 2 years ago, and that'll be part of the the tour that'll take place during the birding festival. From that vantage point, also a lot of marsh birds will hopefully be able to be seen, as well as some of the migratory birds, the ospreys that come into the wetland areas like this. And also in our longleaf forest area, we have a designated protection area for the red cockaded woodpecker. And we'll open that area up for the public to move in during specified times to take a look at the, hopefully see some of the nesting areas of the red cockaded woodpecker. Just an excellent place to look at birds.
We're here at Huntington Beach State Park, known as one of the best birding sites in the state of South Carolina. The reason for this quality bird watching is the diversity of habitats. And because of that, it will also be featured in the upcoming Tidelands Birding Festival. Luckily today we have Steve Roth, naturalist from the park.
Hey, how you doing, Miles?
And he will explain a little bit about these habitats.
Well, yeah, and when you mention diversity, not only do we have diverse habitats here, but they're in a close proximity. The causeway the Huntingtons made created a freshwater pond on one side, a salt marsh like we have here on the other side.
Right.
Also throughout the park we have maritime forest, a beautiful beach habitat. We also have Sandpiper Pond, another freshwater marsh, the jetty habitat. In fact, there's been 287 species documented here in this park. And in given days in the winter months, people record up to 100 species here. Now here we are once again in another very diverse habitat here at Huntington Beach State Park. We're standing on the jetty, we're looking south, and from here, of course you have the jetty right here that we're standing on, beach habitat, sand dunes, salt marsh right in behind there, and this is all part of a 900-acre heritage trust site. Now the birding here is phenomenal. In the winter months, you can expect to see a wide variety of different shorebirds up in this area, including dunlin, short-billed dowdwitcher. You may see red knots. Godwits have been sighted here before. Black skimmers, least terns, a wide variety of different things. The summer months, you're going to find a lot more of the resident type birds. The species diversity goes down a little bit, but you will find nesting Wilson's plover, nesting willet. So there's a lot to see here. Royal terns. So depending on what time of year you come, you're going to see different species. The winter really being the best time of the year. But if you come here, a few things you want to keep in mind. Definitely bring yourself a spotting scope and a good pair of binoculars, because you're going to get some really good distant views at birds, whether it be northern gannets, brown pelicans that you might see out in the ocean, or different birds back in the salt marsh, wading birds like tricolored herons, little blue herons. This area is also known for reddish egrets, which is a very rare bird in our area. And speaking of rare birds, just recently they've seen fricate birds in this area. In the past, they've recorded black guillemots here, of various birds like eiders, things like that, redneck grebes. So this is an area that if you're a person that's done a lot of birding, wants to see the rare and unusual things, this is going to be your main hot spot right in this area here.
We're here just a few miles south of Georgetown, South Carolina at the Santee Coastal Reserve. This is an amazing bird watching area, and today I have with me Dr. Richard Moore of Coastal Carolina University to tell us a little bit about what we may see here.
Well, thank you, Miles. The Santee Coastal Reserve is, as you put it, just an amazing place to look at birds. There's a diverse variety of habitats, ranging from the old rice field impoundments, such as you see behind us, where we have Nhinga. We have, just in the last couple of minutes, we've seen several varieties of heron and egret, pied-billed grebes. In the canals leading around here, there are kingfishers, eastern kingbirds, hooded warbler in the brush along the sides of the canals. All of these birds are not uncommon in this part of the reserve. But I think the real heart of the reserve is the Washaw. This is an area that's still owned by the Nature Conservancy. It's a cypress swamp. There's a boardwalk that leads out into it, and we'll be visiting that in a little while And I think you'll see there a much greater diversity of different kinds of herons, egrets, wood stork nest in that property, and just a whole variety of birds. Swallowtail kites are another species that we would expect to see here. Actually, if you get away from the reserve and over the Santee Delta itself, and a little further inland around Hampton State Park, you probably would see more swallowtail kite. But they do fly over here, they do hunt over these marshes. That's another species that's been on the endangered list. It does seem to be making a comeback. There are increased reports of the species nesting, not just in this area, but also in Georgetown and Horry counties, in areas that they had not been previously known to nest in. The Washoe or Blake's Reserve is a habitat that is really right in the heart of the Santee Coastal Refuge. This is an area that would be historically very difficult for a person to get back into and look at birds, but fortunately we have this boardwalk. Leads us right out into the center of the reserve where there's a fairly open area of cypress swamp. But as you walk out here, you pass under the canopy of cypress trees and black gum, water tupelo, other forest trees. It provides a wonderful habitat for prothonotary warblers, yellow-throated warblers, various vireos, flycatchers, and other small forest birds. Then out in the reserve itself, you can observe herons, egrets, wood storks, anhinga, and a variety of other wading birds that use the trees to find refuge. There are also osprey nests in some of the surrounding trees, and in some years there have been bald eagle that have nested very close to here as well. Another example of habitat found in the Santee Coastal Reserve is the pine savanna. Pine savannas consist of open areas with longleaf pine and very little underbrush, mostly grasses, herbs, ferns. This kind of habitat was thought to be typical of the southeastern coastal plain before the arrival of Europeans. It was naturally maintained by fires that were set by lightning, and it provides the kind of habitat that most animals, wildlife, deer, and many varieties of birds require. We don't find this type of habitat today except in areas that have been managed. One of the species of birds that is very typical of this habitat is the red-cockaded woodpecker. And as this habitat disappears slowly, the woodpecker colonies have been forced into smaller and smaller areas, and consequently have become a very scarce bird throughout most of the southeastern United States. Another species of bird that's typical of this habitat is the Bachman sparrow. Bachman sparrows are not really rare, but if you don't go to the right places to look for them, you probably won't ever see one. But fortunately, here in coastal South Carolina, we have a fair amount of pine savanna remaining, and areas like this provide us not only with places to see red-cockaded woodpeckers and Bachman sparrows, but also a variety of other woodland birds.
There's good birding along the Great PD and Black Rivers just north of the city of Georgetown. In most areas, forests and marshes such as those along the Great PD system would be prime attraction to birders, but in Georgetown County, they are overshadowed by the more spectacular habitats of the Santee Delta. The only public access to the marshes along the Great PD River is at Samworth Wildlife Management Area. Look for the well-marked entrance road to Samworth and follow the road about a mile to a parking area. During spring and fall, keep an eye out overhead for migrating ducks and other species. White ibis are common year-round, as are king rails. Rarities seen here include Lincoln sparrow. A short nature trail and old rice field dikes offer walking opportunities for a good birdwatcher. Cape Romaine National Wildlife Refuge consists of about 34,000 acres of maritime forests, dunes, salt marsh, freshwater impoundments, mudflats, and salt creeks along the Atlantic in the northeastern part of Charleston County. It is probably the best-known birding destination in South Carolina. The most famous part of the refuge is Bull's Island, a barrier island some 5 miles long and about 1 mile wide, lying 3 miles from the mainland. Most of the 338 species of birds on the refuge checklist have been found on Bull's Island. You might well find a flock of wild turkeys strolling around the grounds. These birds are truly wild, since wild turkeys in this part of Charleston County have never been hunted out. Another species to watch for at Hampton Plantation is the pileated woodpecker, which is common and conspicuous here. Magnolia Gardens is a popular tourist attraction, and an admission fee is charged, but it's also an excellent birding area. This 500-acre area has a formal garden, freshwater and brackish marshes, ponds, a cypress swamp, some weedy fields, and many acres of mature oak, hickory, and pine forests. The main birding spot at Magnolia Gardens is the old rice field area. There are 2 ways to explore the ponds and freshwater marshes of this 125-acre portion of the gardens. You can rent a canoe, or you can circle the marsh on foot by following a trail on the dikes. In fall and winter, keep an eye out for the fulvous whistling duck. This is one of the most dependable spots in the state for this elusive species. Bear Island Wildlife Management Area provides some of the most exciting birding in South Carolina any time of year. Though best known for its wintering waterfowl, it's a great place to find shorebirds in spring and fall, nesting bald eagles, wood storks, ibis, and herons in summer, and marsh birds such as rails all year long. This area consists of about 12,000 acres of freshwater marsh and impoundment, tidal marsh, maritime forest, and agricultural lands. Bear Island is a great birding spot. It's fairly good even on slow days and can be fantastic at times. The best time to visit is late winter, when thousands of ducks are here, or spring, when hundreds of shorebirds, herons, ibis, and wood storks visit the mudflats of the freshwater impoundments. Edisto Beach State Park protects over 1,200 acres of beach, dunes, salt marsh, and maritime forest near the southwestern corner of Edisto Island. You can follow the beach to the inlet with good views of the broad salt marsh to the north and of the Atlantic Ocean to the south. Expect to find most of the common species of the salt marsh, beach, and open ocean. Pinckney Island National Wildlife Refuge is one of a chain of refuges in coastal Georgia and adjacent South Carolina, known as the Georgia Coastal Complex. Although Pinckney Island National Wildlife Resource is less well known than the Savannah, it is very accessible and offers good birding. It consists of over 4,000 acres of salt marsh, maritime forest, pine flatwoods, agricultural fields, brushy scrub, and freshwater ponds. This great diversity of habitats makes for excellent birding. The best birding on the island is less than a mile from the parking lot, along the main refuge road. The yellow-crowned night heron is common here. In fact, this is probably the best place in South Carolina to observe this species breeding. 19 species of ducks have been found on the refuge. Hunting Island State Park consists of about 5,000 acres of beach, dunes, salt marsh, salt creek, and maritime forest. Hunting Island State Park is an excellent birding area, well worth a visit any time of year. Although Hilton Head is a heavily developed resort area, there are still quite a few good birding areas on the island. 2 of the best are Sea Pine Forest Preserve and the Port Royal Mudflats. The Port Royal Mudflats is the name given to the flats that are exposed at the north end of Hilton Head Island at low tide. Then they are well worth a visit. At high tide, you'll also find quite a few birds. Jasper County is the southernmost county in South Carolina, just north of Savannah, Georgia. It's a coastal county, although the Atlantic Ocean in the county is not reached by any county roads. From a birder's point of view, Jasper County is dominated by the Savannah River. Downstream from about the I-95 bridge, the Savannah River is influenced by the tides and so is considered part of the lower coastal plain. The upper reaches of the tidal estuary of the Savannah have extensive freshwater marshes. Some of them were used as rice fields in the 19th century. This habitat is easily explored along the auto tour route at Savannah National Wildlife Refuge. Savannah, Georgia is a major port. To keep shipping channels open, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers oversees a major dredging operation at Savannah. The spoil from this dredging is deposited in a huge spoil area just across the river from the city. This area, which is open to birders, is one of the true birding hotspots of South Carolina. By carefully birding the tour road and perhaps exploring a few of the oak hammocks and side dikes, you should be able to find most of the birds of the coastal plains and freshwater marshes. You'll also be able to find those of the coastal plain mixed hardwood forest. Impoundment 18 is great for ducks, herons, ibis, shorebirds, and alligators. The oak hammocks are good for migrating warblers, scarlet tanager, rose-breasted grosbeaks in April and May, or September and October. Some of the rarities which have been found on the refuge include red-necked grebe, fulvous whistling duck, tundra swan, old squaw, golden eagle, yellow and black rails, upland sandpiper, ruff, groove-billed Annie, and short-eared owl. The Savannah River and its marshes attract a wide variety of coastal species. Double-crested cormorants are abundant, except in early summer, and you'll find most of the following species in season: horned grebe, brown pelican, various herons and egrets, clapper rail, black-bellied and semi-palmated plover, greater and lesser yellowlegs, willet, spotted sandpiper, and least sandpiper, dunlin, except in early summer, and short-billed dowitcher, laughing, Bonapartes, ring-billed, herring, and great black-backed gull, Caspian, royal, common, forsters, and least tern, black skimmers in the summer, and the marsh wren. Well, the time went much too fast, and we hope you enjoyed this visual sampling of just a few of the spectacular birding sites along the coast. There are many great places to visit and experience the wonders of coastal wildlife, both on your own or with guided tours. We look forward to seeing you out there on the birding trail.